To clear it up for people, I was at my wit's end. This entire situation has been literally driving me crazy. I can't fight these things. I can hardly defend myself against them. I'd been essentially condemned by the de facto matriarch of what I thought was mine and my family's home. I didn't know what else to do. Father John blessed our house numerous times throughout the day and prayed with my family and I as we mourned the loss of Paul, who gave his life trying to protect us. I will never, ever forget the sight of the swarm enveloping Paul. I'm still not sure what exactly they did to him, whether they ate him or tore him apart. But whatever it was painful. For as much as I'll never be able to forget the visual aspect of the attack, the auditory terror of his pained screams will truly haunt me until the end of my days. We disconnected the main power source to the house, and then salted all the windows and doors again. This time, not forgetting the window in the attic or any in the basement. We had a plan for what we were going to do, and it required some finesse. Father John got a collection of holy relics and set them up around the house in various places, and set jars of salt up on predetermined posts. We then armed ourselves with multiple toilet paper roll-sized tubes of salt, which we holstered in our pockets. My wife remained practically silent through everything. I could tell this was taking a severe emotional toll on her. All I wanted to do was to protect her and my daughter. The gas tanks were sitting idly by in our kitchen. I still wasn't sure what the plan was with those. I mean, I had an idea, but like I said, it was going to take some grace to pull off what we wanted to do. We waited in the dark, lighting only a few solitary candles in the living room in which we twiddled our thumbs, quite possibly waiting to meet our demise. The Smilers wasted no time this round. The entire street went black, including all streetlights and houses. It seemed darker than usual, though. Even though the moon was out, it was as though the darkness was overtaking the light. One by one, sets of glowing eyes appeared down the street in either direction. As usual, we kept all the curtains closed, except one set, which was for sight purposes. We had to see when they were coming. The glowing eyes grew brighter as the Smilers flailed toward us, until their silhouettes appeared in a visage I wish I had never laid eyes on. There must have been 50 to 60 Smilers in that street. Only not a single one of them was smiling. Each one sported a foul grimace, one that said they were now beyond the apparent pleasantries they had initially approached us with. How they thought their initial appearance was in any way welcoming is beyond me. From the left, I saw one smiler in particular being followed in a way by the others. In my infinite wisdom on the beings I was dealing with, I took this to mean that this smiler in particular was the Lady Rickle. Then, all of a sudden, behind the group that was paraded around her was, as far as I could tell from a distance, a male smiler, bigger than I'd ever seen before, who, while still somewhat lazily flailing about as he moved, seemed to have a much smoother and more connected way of movement about him. While the smilers I had seen up to this point had such an exaggerated way of getting to where they needed to go, as if they were being controlled by a marionette, this bigger fellow moved about as though he were a stumbling drunk. I know those don't sound too different, but trust me, they are. I immediately made the connection and alerted Father John that I was relatively sure that Lee Rickle himself was joining the show. We got ourselves armed with holy relics and approached the spot where my front door was propped up against the door frame, having been broken off its hinges the night before. It felt like an eternity as they made their way down the street. Once they were finally nearing our property, Georgia let out a screeching, howling laughter. As they continued approaching, they spoke.
I must say, I'm quite surprised to see you here, though we would have found you anywhere.
Before I could even process what was being said, Father John spoke up. "We wish to come to an agreement," he hollered at the top of his lungs. Georgia retorted by mimicking her first laugh and was joined by a new, much deeper laugh.
My husband wants to meet the man who denied his extended hand,
Georgia announced. I still couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that she thought we would have seen them for the first time and been like, "Oh, what's up?" all casually. "I didn't mean to disrespect anyone. I didn't know what you wanted. All I was trying to do was protect my family. We will happily leave," I yelled, hoping to come to some kind of understanding. I was met with no reply. I stood there, breathing heavily, anxiously awaiting a response. After about 30 seconds of silence, I took a peek through a crack between the propped-up door and the frame. I jumped back when I was met with the stare from both Georgia and Lee Rickle. There was something about the Smiler's eyes that always, absolutely captivated me the moment I first looked into them. I broke my gaze and stepped back, moving the door away from the frame, confronting the enemy once and for all. "We will leave. Please," I pleaded. "I find your resilience inspiring. I can't simply end your existence. I would require you to become a member of my group. Move the salt." "This family has done nothing to you," Father John explained, They were simply frightened by your abrupt appearance and he was cut off by a low-pitched yet very loud growl by Lee Rickle. I'm assuming this was because he didn't particularly care for a holy man to be speaking to him. I've made my decision. Now remove the salt. There is nowhere for you to go that I will not send my subordinates to find you. There was a tense silence for what seemed like an eternity. I looked over at my cowering wife and daughter in the living room as tears filled my eyes. This was it. May I have a private moment with my wife and child? I asked politely. Remove the salt and put down the crosses you've armed yourselves with. Then you may do as you wish. I reluctantly slid my foot over the salt, brushing it away in every direction. Each of the four of us slid our holy relics across the floor, away from the Rickles. Lee, Georgia, and a third smiler that hadn't spoken yet hobbled in. I presumed this to be Carrie Ann. Home, sweet home, said Lee in a repulsively smug tone. You will take your moment here in front of us. Then we will commence the evening. The Rickles took a look around at their new old house, while being sure not to get too far away from us. Father, pray with us, I all but demanded. The four of us huddled, mere feet away from our soon-to-be killers, I guess I could say. I didn't know what they were going to do to us, but I knew it wasn't going to go or end well. I only hoped it would be fast. I couldn't bear thinking my sweet daughter could potentially be moments away from suffering the same ambiguous fate as Paul. I whispered to everyone, I just saw Brian go past the front door. As soon as he makes it to the front, we go. Father John whispered a prayer as I kept my eyes focused on the side window of the house, waiting to see a shadow rush past. It seemed like it took forever, but it happened. I waited about another 2 seconds before I whispered, Go. We began what felt like a slow-motion dash through the hallway and into the kitchen. Behind us, I heard a roar from what I assumed was Lee. None of us hesitated. We reached the kitchen, which contained the back door. I had left the caps loose on the gas containers, and as quick as I could, tipped all 5 over, flooding the kitchen and the hallway with the pungent substance. Father John flung the back door open and we tumbled outside. The Rickles were quickly behind us but stopped at the doorline and stumbled back into the kitchen. What have you done? Lee demanded to know. I didn't even think to answer him before I lit a book of matches on fire and tossed it into the kitchen, setting the home ablaze. We ran around to the front yard, avoiding smilers that seemed to be just standing there, mesmerized by something we couldn't see. Father John, of course, saw nothing, as he was no longer in the house. We reached the front yard to meet Brian, Paul's brother. A paranormal enthusiast, but not in the profession. He had agreed to help us. As the fire raged through the house, a small explosion lit up the sky toward the back of the house. While I was talking to the Rickles, my wife had gone back and started the stove. It wasn't enough to cause an instant detonation, like we'd hoped, but It certainly helped spread the fire quickly. Brian's part in our plan was integral. While I talked to the Rickles in the house and took a moment with my family and Father John, Brian ran around the house, pouring out 2 gallons worth of blessed salt water Father John had provided him with earlier in the day. That's what trapped the Rickles in the house. As I heard roars and ear-shattering screams from within the house, the rest of the Smilers just stood there. Before we could even blink, all but maybe 3 or 4 of them were gone. Those that remained simply turned around and flailed in directions all away from us. We're not sure who those lucky survivors were or why they didn't disappear with the rest. But my guess is they were the ones that were not directly connected to the Rickles and their mission. Again, strictly conjecture. I don't know if I'll ever know for sure. Without waiting to see the rest of the house go down in flames, but not before the roars and screams from within subsided, we got in our cars and drove away. I am now in a town about 80 miles from our house. We received a call alerting us that our house was on fire. I explained that we were currently on vacation and that this was a surprise to us. I had only hoped that none of my neighbors saw us drive away, but I'm sure I'm not that lucky. I have an idea of what I'm going to tell the police regarding why there was an obviously gasoline-fueled fire that occurred at my home, which I am choosing not to reveal here. If anyone is curious as to our developing situation following these events, feel free to private message me, and I will respond to them in the quickest fashion I can. I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to be quite busy in the times to come.